all that metadata called NetFlow or flow logs that's generated on these router switches, firewalls, and public clouds is then transmitted to a flow collector. In this case, we're talking about ElastiFlow. So ElastiFlow will then be the ingestion point for all that metadata. It's going to normalize that data. It's also going to enrich it. Then it's going to encrypt it and transmit it over to a data platform. And that data platform today we're going to be using is Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is then going to store that data, and that data is then going to be accessed by something called Kibana. Kibana is kind of like that user, that UI experience the way you access the data. And you can see this user here is accessing ElastiFlow. They're basically querying the flow data to understand the network better. Those queries go to Kibana, are conducted through Kibana. Kibana then queries Elasticsearch, which is where all the flow data lives. And Elasticsearch returns the results to Kibana, and then you see it in a nice dashboard like this. Now, in today's demonstration, this entire gray box, everything in here, ElastiFlow, Elasticsearch, and Kibana are going to be contained and running in the same server or same virtual machine. So you can run everything together in one box. Now, for larger deployments, scaling is very easy. You can easily have add capacity if you needed to in the form of additional, ElastiFlow collectors or Elasticsearch instances or even Kibana. Okay. So let's do another poll question. What is your experience level with Elastic and Kibana? Okay, we've got mostly beginners, which is perfectly fine. You won't need any experience today. Got a couple experts. That's awesome. And some intermediates. That's good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go through the installation at this point. Okay, Carla, are you able to see my screen? Just
Yes.
a black box at this point? Okay, cool. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have admin access to, I like to use Ubuntu server 22 or higher. This particular server is configured with 16 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, and 500 gigs of disk. And that'll let you store about, I believe, 1 month of data at 500 flows per second. That's not really super important to know at this point, but that's kind of that configuration that I'm using. And so the one thing you're going to want to have is Docker. I don't currently have Docker installed, so I'm going to go ahead and install that. So Docker is just a way to quickly run applications in essentially a container. And it's just a very efficient, quick way to run, deploy, and scale applications. But you can go ahead and install that. Um, and I'm using a script to do that. Um, and give me 1 second here. Carla, you want to do another poll question?
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool.
So poll number 3, what are your primary goals for network monitoring? Really love the engagement from everyone. It looks like performance analysis and security are the top two. Sharing the results so everyone can see them.
Okay. And my screen still sharing?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we got that installed. There was a background installation process going on, and I got rid of that. But after we install Docker, the next thing you want to do is tune the kernel for Linux, and that sounds kind of daunting, but it's really easy. Essentially, Elasticsearch is very intent. It's a very intensive application, and so you want to optimize the network stack as well as the way memory is utilized. And so you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly. Basically, we're just adding some configuration to the systemctl configuration file. And keep in mind that as we go through these commands, we have everything written down for you, and we're going to share all that with you after this webinar. And in fact, I'll actually even include an even easier way to get all this done, just like an elementary school teacher would do, right? They always show you the hard way first, but it's really not difficult. So we go ahead and add that configuration to the sysctl configuration file. Then we go ahead and activate it. There, it's active. Awesome. The next thing we want to do is we want to disable swapping. So we don't want the hard disk being used as RAM, right? Because that can slow things down. And with how inexpensive memory is now, it doesn't make sense to swap a whole lot. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the current configuration. And we can see that we're actually using a swap file here. You might see something else like a swap partition, but we do have instructions for that. So at this point, we're going to turn off swapping. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and delete that swap file just to make really sure that we don't use it, because that can slow stuff down. Okay. So that's all taken care of. The next thing we want to do is we're going to download some Docker Compose files. These are, again, on the GitHub repo that we're going to share with you after the call. So download those files. We're going to go ahead and confirm that all this file is downloaded. So we downloaded this Elasticsearch Kibana Compose file. This is what's going to actually install Elasticsearch and Kibana and configure it for you. And then we have the ElastiFlow Compose file. This is what installs ElastiFlow. And then there's a .env file. So you don't need to do anything with this at this point, but I just wanted to show it to you. This is basically a text file that holds environment variables. You can tweak these according to your preferences. Everything's already set for best practices according to the configuration that I shared with you earlier, and we've also documented that. If you want to change anything in here, you're free to. One of the things you might want to do is change the Kibana password. Right now it's just Elastic, but you don't have to do that. So we'll go ahead and just exit out of that. And then now we're at the fun part. So basically, well, there's one more thing we need to do. We're going to download some kind of auxiliary ElastiFlow support files. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and paste the command to do that. Again, this is all documented for you. We'll share it later. So if we go to etc and then ElastiFlow, we should see our folder structure there. Okay, so these are all files and folders that you might want to use for enrichment of data, but we'll talk about that later. So now the fun part is to go ahead and actually do the deployment. Okay. So we're going to do run the Docker compose files. And I'm telling it to install Kibana, Elasticsearch, and ElastiFlow. And I'm going to tell it to run kind of in the background. So this is what it looks like. So this is a lot of these downloads. This is what you would have to do in a way if you weren't using Docker. So it's pretty convenient that it's all automated for you. So we'll go ahead and let this go for a few minutes. It should actually only take about a minute or so to complete. Carla, do you want to knock out maybe another poll question?
I think we went through them already.
Okay, sounds good. So it looks like everything was downloaded. Oh, we got one more to go. So it looks like the flow collector is running, and Kibana is just waiting for Elasticsearch to be up and available. So that should take just a few more seconds here.
Actually, OJ, while we wait for this, we did get a question. So there was an anonymous question asking, does this work on anything other than Ubuntu?
Oh, Ubuntu. Yes, it'll work on pretty much any major Linux distribution. You can use Red Hat or Debian or really any flavor would work. Ubuntu is pretty good. A lot of good support for it, and it's pretty user friendly. So so at this point, let's go ahead and open up a browser. And what we're going to do is just go to the IP address of the collector, the server we were just on. And it's port 5601. That's the port that Kibana runs on. Okay. And we're going to log in with Elastic. Okay. So we're in. Kibana is obviously working. Elasticsearch is working. And at this point, we just need to install the dashboards for ElastiFlow. Okay. So we'll go ahead and go to that URL for the dashboards. I'm going to download that file. And then we're going to switch over to Kibana, and we're going to import the dashboards. So basically, we go to Stack Management, and then under Kibana, we go to Saved Objects, and then import the dashboard we downloaded, or the dashboard file. This actually contains many dashboards. So we'll go ahead and select that, and then import. Should be about 400 or so objects here. That's all done. Okay. Now, I am generating flow data in the background that's been sending continuously. So as soon as the containers that you see were running, as soon as ElastiFlow came up, then it started receiving those flow records and then shipping them to Elastic. So let's see if they're showing in our dashboards now. So we're going to go. I like to start with the flow overview dashboard. And there it is. So at this point, I wanted to just kind of show you, take a few minutes and kind of walk through the dashboards and how you could gain, some value out of them. So right now we're looking at the last 15 minutes of data. So of course you could shift this to another time if you wanted. If you're running this for several days, you could look at the last 7 days or 30 days or whatever you have, right? You can also set this to refresh every few seconds if you wanted. This would be great for a knock display. Okay. So right now this is a top talkers from a client's server's perspective. So this IP address is IP address has been using the most amount of bandwidth in my network, and then it's serving this client. That's why that IP address is indented. Here's a breakdown of services. I want to know what applications and services are the most popular on my network and how much bandwidth is being utilized for those. And then I want to look at maybe, autonomous systems. What AS is my network transacting with? To go a level deeper, we can go to the top end dashboard and we can see the traffic and application utilization over time on this top right panel. And down below is the list of clients that are driving that traffic utilization and then the servers those clients are accessing. So if I wanted to know specifically, like this guy is using the most amount of traffic, I can go ahead and just filter on this particular IP address and I can see the servers that he's using. It turns out he's just using this one server. Okay. That's how you'd filter for that. And then at the top, you have the capability to have full Boolean logic across all of the flow fields. And we support every flow field, by the way, to create any kind of query that you want that's not available, through this particular dashboard. You could then save those queries and recall them later so that you can gain, the insights that you need to very quickly. You can also share any content you want by hitting the share button. You can generate links or generate embed code to place this data in other systems, or just you share the data because you want to collaborate with somebody, right? You want to troubleshoot an issue. We also have some really cool views into the data. So like looking at the flows dashboard, this is going to show you essentially a Sankey diagram showing you the volume of bandwidth going between some entities. So in this case, we're looking at client traffic accessing a service that is then running on a server. So if you were trying to troubleshoot, trying to understand the utilization of your network, what clients, what servers are using the most bandwidth, what services are important in your network, maybe you want to look at determine if TCP sessions can be established or not, right? If you're investigating a security event, you want to know if the session was established. I want to know, hey, was someone able to access my SSH server or port 443 or whatever it is, right? If you're troubleshooting application availability, maybe you want to know if you want to see all the sessions where the sessions could not be established, right? So you've got a server that's down or some kind of misconfiguration. So those are some of the ways that you can look at this data. And there are different perspectives, right? You can look at client server, source desk, all that is available. And then you might notice some areas of the product of the dashboards where there is no data. Like if we look at top N and go to like applications, we do application identification, and you can actually add your own apps in here as well. You can define your own IP application by an IP and a port. But if we go to, let's say, like threats, there's no threat data here. This is actually an optional enrichment that we'll talk about in a bit. And then if we go to like GeoIP, we can actually enrich data with GeoIP data, but that's not showing up either because it's not been set up. So my goal today was to show you like bare bones out of the box, the value that you get in just 2 minutes of your time. This is this product is is extremely quick to set up and phenomenal for the value you get, especially given that what I just did just now is 100% free. And then if you want a lot of those optional enrichments, or if you wanted like a higher performance system because you're ingesting more flows per second, that's where you might want to look at one of our paid options. We also have broader device support with the paid options where we support like the vendor specific fields from like Palo Alto firewalls or Fortinets, or where they are offering other insights that they put into flow data. So with that being said, let me switch to an environment where all the enrichments are turned on and you can get a sense for what is available with all the enrichments configured, and then maybe it's on one of our paid options. Do keep in mind we do support many enrichments out of the box on the free product, and we're going to be including a how-to guide on configuring all those enrichments, whether they're paid or free. So you'll be able to do that as well. So let's take a look at some of the data that can be added as enrichments. If we go to the back to the top end dashboard and we go to apps, you're going to see much more application identification happening. Again, this is our cloud app identification going on. The collector will download a local copy of the database and then do the matching locally. Okay. So it's very quick to understand. Okay, great. We got Zoom meetings happening right now. This is probably my traffic actually on this call. And we could see the IPs that are accessing Zoom as well as the actual Zoom servers. Okay. Now, another really cool thing we do is threat identification. So we actually have a global network of honeypots that are identifying malicious activity from IP addresses that interact with those honeypots. And we flag that traffic as malicious or not, and then identify what kind of malicious traffic it is. And then we go ahead and inform you through the dashboards whether or not your network has encountered some of those poor reputation IP addresses that we've found. And we can also take that threat data and then map it to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Okay. And the MITRE ATT&CK framework is a standard way to identify security incidents so that you know what you're dealing with and you know what you need to do to resolve the issue. So in this environment, I have, looks like I have some initial access attempts or IP addresses that have been conducting initial access attempts, and they're doing that through some brute force attacks. So I'll go ahead and filter on that. So these IPs are the public IPs that are exhibiting, that we've identified to be malicious through our honeypots. Okay. Now, if you were to go ahead and click on one of these IP addresses, you're going to be taken to our NetIntel portal where we show you a calendar of events. So what we've detected and when, as well as mapping to the MITRE ATT&CK framework tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques. So this is valuable because a lot of IP reputation systems have, they might not have the most current data, but with our system, you can see exactly how old the data is and when an event was detected so that you can make an informed decision about what you need to do. And I can see that this particular IP address has established 15 sessions with my network. I can go ahead and filter on this IP address, and then I can then go over to top N and see exactly what hosts it's accessing. Turns out it's one of my servers. There's the 15 sessions. Pretty cool stuff. That's threat identification and MITRE mapping enrichment. The other enrichments we can do, again, like I mentioned, the GeoIP, but this time it's going to be populated because it's been configured. This is a great way to understand and gain situational awareness of how your network's being utilized, where your traffic's going, how your applications are accessing their microservices. And we can even map your private IP space, right? So rest assured, wherever your data centers are, you're going to be able to plot them on a map like this and understand the volumes of traffic and where they're connecting to. Okay. AS traffic was not configured yet, just out of the box, but this is what it would look like. It's showing you what ASNs and ASs your network is interacting with, so you can make informed decisions when it comes to increasing performance of your network and also decreasing the amount of money that you spend on transit providers, right? Some other cool things we do are also allowing you to see true interface names in the NetFlow data. So network devices typically will export flow data, but when they do that, they'll populate the flow data with showing you like the interfaces that the traffic left on or came in on, but they don't give you the true interface names. They'll do things like this, right? Index 4, index 16, and that's kind of meaningless. What you want them to say is things like Ethernet 0, right? And so when you are troubleshooting an incident, let's say you get high CPU utilization, high interface utilization, you then filter on that particular network device and then actually filter on the specific interface that's being utilized, generate that traffic pattern over time. Great, I got a spike here. Why is this, why is my utilization through the roof? I'm going to go ahead and highlight that time slice. Then I can jump over to top N and understand exactly what's happening over that time. Who are my clients? Who are my users? Who are my servers? What are my applications being accessed? So you can really make informed decisions about utilization on ports instead of just increasing bandwidth or waiting till the problem resolves itself, which is really scary. Let's see what else. So we talked about app identification, threat identification, geo and ASN, SNMP enrichment. And then lastly, we do some really cool stuff where we do DNS lookups of the clients, right? This is not done at time of render. It's actually done at ingest. So the data is part of those records, right? It's not going to slow down your dashboards and allow you to like lose that data as well. You can also add your own enrichment data to the product. If you want to tag flow records with whatever metadata you want, let's say you want to add a site name to traffic. You don't want to look at things from like a network device view. You want to look at things from a site view. You can actually add sites. Any textual data you want, you can add to your flow records automatically. And it's really, really easy to set up. And again, that guide we're going to send out is going to include that information. Okay. So that's about it. There are some more details in the materials we'll be sending. Let's go ahead and switch back to the presentation. Okay. And there we are. Carla, do we want to do this poll question? I'm not sure if you already asked this.
Asked this before. We asked this before.
Got it.
You
Okay.
have a lot of questions that did come through, and I did want to encourage people to ask all their questions in the Q&A segment. One of the questions is there a way to have DNS lookups for the IP addresses in the ingestion flow?
Yes, that's exactly what we do. You can turn on DNS lookups on the collector. And you can also, if you want, you can specify an alternative DNS server to use if you didn't want to use the operating system one that's configured. And you can also supply your own list of host name to IP address mappings in case you wanted to override what you're getting for DNS.
Thank you. Our next question is, can I have more than one device sending NetFlow data to ElastiFlow?
Yes, absolutely. If it talks on the net, if it sends flow data, ElastiFlow will ingest it and allow you to dashboard it. So certainly you can have as many devices as you want. Of course, we do license the product based on flows per second across all the devices, but that is available. And additionally, you can actually deploy as many collectors as you would like. So the collection points, you kind of want to keep them local to where the flow data is coming from. And all those collectors can then send to an Elastic Stack.
The next one is, how do the flow pods scale? Do you need a VIP in front of the collectors if running in K8s?
So you don't need to use a load balancer. I think it's probably a good idea. It makes things a lot easier from a configuration standpoint. But you don't need to use a load balancer if you have multiple collectors. And then those collectors would then be sending all their flow data to the Elastic Stack. And in that case, we do recommend using, typically we recommend using a coordinating node. That's a kind of elastic role where it'll help to distribute flow more equally across the different data nodes. And then also help with query time, because it's going to be able to keep track a lot better of where the data is, because Elastic is a distributed database. As far as the pricing goes, I'm a solutions architect, so I'm not allowed to talk about that stuff, but I can tell you that we do offer the product in packs of 4,000 flows per second. And then once you've decided how many flows per second you need, you do have the option of going with a standard license, which has a ton of functionality, and then, or you could do premium, which includes additional functionality like the IP reputation system, or the threat enrichment.
Cool. Thank you, OJ. We have two more questions. I wanted to see if anyone wanted to ask more questions before we proceed. Okay, the next one is there a way to label our internal IP blocks? So there's two examples. One of them is 192.168.1.0/24 would be in sales department. And then another one would be similar, but before the forward slash, it would be 0.50 instead of 0.1, is accounting. A way that they can better visualize them.
Absolutely. That would be, we talked earlier about tagging your flow data with whatever text information you'd want. Like if you wanted to create sites or label departments like you're doing. Yeah, it's totally supported out of the box, even with the free product. So it's pretty cool that you can do that.
All right. And for our final question, how hard is it to add our custom enrichment data?
Easy. There's a YAML file, essentially a text file, and you put in your IP blocks. You can use a range of IPs or a single IP, or you can use a CIDR notation, and then you just choose what fields that you want to add, what key value pairs basically you want to add to your flow data, and that's essentially it. And that file does refresh itself every so often, and you can configure that refresh time. And so you could actually have some kind of automation where you're feeding this file with data from another source, so that it's constantly current, and then ElastiFlow will continually refresh that file so that the data is tagged the way you need it to be tagged.
Thank you, OJ. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And this was our last question for now. And if anyone has any other questions, you can reach out to OJ directly on the email listed here, or you can email sales@elastiflow.com.
Awesome. So to wrap up, as you can see, ElastiFlow takes about 2 minutes to deploy, and that's including the full Elastic and Kibana stack. So it's super simple. Anybody can do it. I think you're going to really like the walkthrough guide we made for you. And again, that guide does include an even easier method to get all that going. And with just a couple minutes, you're going to be able to address both the NetOps, excuse me, NetOps and SecOps use cases. And we feel that being able to blend and address both the NetOps and SecOps at one time in one platform that is years ahead of anything else that I've personally used, we feel that drastically cuts down on the time to investigate and resolve issues. You're not chasing your tail or running queries that could take hours to over a day to execute. It's just seconds of your time to investigate. We feel that's really valuable for our customers, and it's what our users enjoy. But we have several ways to also get involved. We actually have a Slack community that you're free to join. You can request a free 1-year basic license, which includes some additional capability that you get on top of the non-basic license, if that makes sense. But that's free, so you can get started, and then reach out to sales@elastiflow.com to schedule a demo or get some more information. And Carla will be sharing this deck with you, as well as the materials that we went through today. So thank you for joining.